Sorry. Hey, everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What is shaking on your Monday? Hope you're having a great one. Tonight, we're going to tell you all about the Loch Ness Monster. Yeah, yeah. I know, I'm sorry. Man, I'm muterino and can't hear you. You can hear me now, though. Never mind. Yeah, I got it. I'm dumb, but I'm not stupid. Anyway. If you could do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, all the completely free things that you can do, don't cost you a penny, that help us with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-seeing algorithm. Plus, we have super chats and memberships. We love it when you take advantage of those because they help us pay the bills around here. And then please turn on your gifted membership. It tells how to do that right there in the little scrolling thing at the bottom. And maybe somebody will give you a membership to the Tom Gulley Show free of charge. Gift it to you. Goodness of their heart. Know what I'm saying? They do that. I'd like to cover two things real quick. Number one, StreamYard has put a different music bed under the countdown at the beginning of the show. Now it all seems worth it for all of the things they do to destroy this show for the $44.99 a month that I pay them. That's great. There's new music. And secondly, I just got a notification from Facebook that says all of the videos that I have on Facebook, not like links to YouTube videos, but back long ago when I used to do my show exclusively on Facebook, they're going to get rid of all of those like on March 21st. So if anybody wants to see or hear any of the early fledgling days of the video portion of this show, because we've had a podcast since like 2010 or something like that, go take advantage of those because I'm not going to try to save them. Most of them I have the audio from anyway because my show was being syndicated. So I save the audio. I don't really need the video. But if you want to see any of those, now's your chance. Yeah. Rumpled Trenchcoat, a Columbo podcast is here. If you're not checking out Rumpled Trenchcoat, a Columbo podcast, you are missing out. You are missing out. Go to the YouTube page and you'll get the gist of it. They review certain episodes. So you want to watch that episode for free on Tubi and then go back and listen to the review of it by Rumpled Trenchcoat, a Columbo podcast, which is Rich and his sister. And hopefully they're going to be doing a live show soon. When they do, we will promote the living bejesus out of it here because I guess I said do an award show at the end of the season and come up with some great stuff. I don't know what they've got planned. They'll probably do something smarter than I would. Gene1313 is here. Hi to the best chat and host on YouTube. Well, I don't know about the host, but the chat is certainly the best. We do have the most cheerful chat room on the internet, as verified by independent sources. So that's something everyone will want to take advantage of. So tonight, let me tell you about the Loch Ness Monster. I'm pretty sure everybody knows what the Loch Ness Monster is or supposed to be. We'll get into all of that. But they call the Loch Ness Monster Nessie because you want to give a monster a cuddly, friendly nickname. It's a mythical creature in the Scottish folklore that's said to inhabit the Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands. There it is right there. There's the loch. It's often described as a large, long-necked creature with one or more humps protruding from the water. And I don't know about you, but I can't get enough humps. I like my Nessie to have as many humps as possible. Many people may think that this creature and rumors of it has existed for centuries. Actually, the public's interest in its worldwide fame and certain people's belief that it's a real thing has varied since it was really brought to worldwide attention in 1933. So the worldwide attention hasn't even existed for 100 years quite yet. evidence of Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster, is purely anecdotal. In other words, there's no actual tangible proof. Anecdotal is a nice way of saying, well, we'll get into that in a minute, but it just means that it's only from people's personal accounts. It's not from any actual, we found a fin or whatever else. And that's mostly from widely disputed photographs and sonar readings. The scientific community explains the alleged sightings of the Loch Ness Monster as hoaxes, wishful thinking, and the misidentification of things in the water. The pseudoscience and subculture of cryptozoology has placed particular emphasis on Nessie, however, and that's why we're talking about Nessie to this day. To this very day. In August of 1933, a gentleman by the name of George Spicer had his account of a sighting published in The Courier, a newspaper, and public interest skyrocketed with hundreds, not thousands of letters at that point being sent in by other people who detailed their sightings, describing it as a monster fish or a sea serpent or a dragon, with the name finally evolving into the Loch Ness Monster. Now, since the 1940s, that's when they started calling it Nessie. Like, oh, you know, great Nessie, great Nessie. Now, there were some very early sort of precursor legends that weren't directly able to be attributed to the loch here that I'm showing you, one of which was St. Columba in the year 565, where an account in a document called The Life of St. Columba, which was written in the 7th century AD, described this Irish monk, St. Columba, staying in the area of Loch Ness, didn't really name where it was. There's a river Ness as well, by the way, and they kind of attribute it to there was a water beast that mauled a man and dragged him underwater, apparently, allegedly. There's also a D. Mackenzie in the year 1871 or 2, that's not even verified, it saw an object resembling a log or an upturned boat start to wriggle and churn up the water before disappearing at very fast speed. And that wasn't even published until 1934, when this D. Mackenzie sent his story in, which was in a letter by somebody else. It was really, it's just really vague. And that account got a lot of attention after the big article in the Courier of George Spicer of 1934. Alexander MacDonald, or Alexander MacDonald, sighted a large stubby-legged animal surfacing from the loch and propelling itself within 50 yards of the shore where this guy was standing. And he reported his sighting to the Loch Ness water bailiff, Alex Campbell. And he said the creature looked like a salamander. So, yeah. Oh, boy. Let's see here. Doc Torn, man, oh, man, oh, man. You've been so generous here, my man. Thank you so much for the $20. The Tom Gulley Show, hosted by the Stone Green Man himself, I'll explain that in a second, has evidence of the Loch Ness Monster. Boy, I wish I did. I'd be so famous. And for that, of course, for every donation that we get and membership that we get, you get the point. And $20, that means you get what we like to call the full point, which means you get the point without banners and in full screen. So that is, of course, the most coveted honor we can just bestow on somebody here at the Tom Gulley Show, is the full point. And that's rarefied air there, let me tell you, folks. That's rarefied air indeed. It's quite a thing. So, Doc Torn, thank you so much for your continuing generosity and helping make the show way more entertaining than when I talk. Way more entertaining. It's just vastly more. There's the loch again. Now, 1933 was a big year. I mean, a big year for the Loch Ness. The best known article that first attracted a lot of attention was also in 1933 in the Inverness Courier about a large beast or whale-like fish. The article by Alex Campbell, who, if you'll recall, is the water bailiff, whatever the heck that is, for Loch Ness, and a part-time journalist. And he discussed a sighting by Aldi McKay, right down the loch, Aldi McKay, of an enormous creature with the body of a whale rolling in the water in the loch, while Aldi, who's a female, by the way, and her husband, John, were driving on the highway next to the loch. The word monster was reportedly applied for the first time, and some reports claim it was coined by the editor of the Inverness Courier, Evan Barron. There is a rather lengthy account of it. I guess I can read it. The creature disported itself, rolling and plunging her fully for a minute, its body resembling that of a whale, on the water cascading and churning like a simmering cauldron. Soon, however, it disappeared in a boiling mass of foam. Both onlookers confessed that there was something uncanny about the whole thing, for they realized there was no ordinary denizen of the depths that had appeared before them, because apart from its enormous size, the beast, in taking its final plunge, sent out waves that were big enough to be caused by a passing steamer. Steamer, of course, a ship, and not... I can't say it on the air. Apparently, according to a later article in 2013, McKay said she'd said, "Stop the beast," when viewing the spectacle. In the late 1980s, a naturalist interviewed Aldi McKay, while she admitted to knowing that there had been an oral tradition of the beast in the loch well before her claimed sighting. But this 1933 article also stated that Loch Ness has for generations been credited with being the home of a fearsome-looking monster. It was a monster. Do you know? It was a monster there in the loch. You can't be having a loch. Oh, by the way, the Stone Green Man. Yes, I am verified a Stone Green host by the NEAS Institute. It's not marijuana related, though. They rate their hosts as either red, which means bad, orange, which means meh, or green, which means awesome. And they dubbed me Stone Green, etched in stone. I can't be removed from that perch. And so that's what that means. I just don't want people thinking I'm some kind of crazy hippie. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we got a few chats here. Why don't I get to those before I get to this next thing? The chef is here and in the house. The chef, I talked about the chef to my sister today. Talked to him about that. Talked to her about him. Doc says, "Yo, Rumple, people saying hi, people saying hi, people saying hi, people saying hi." And that's, of course, why we're the most cheerful chat room on the internet, is verified by independent sources. Positive Patriot, good to see him. I heard there's even proof about Nessie in the Bible. Well, I don't know how that would be possible, because I don't think the people that wrote the Bible even knew Scotland existed. But maybe a sea creature was. People saying hi. Rumple Trenchcoat, the water bailiff swears the Loch Ness... He swears in the Loch Ness Monster just before they testify. Yes. Yes. Do you swear and affirm that you are a plesiosaur? That kind of thing. People laughing, people laughing. Smoke Detector says, the old Cleveland canoe. Yes. Laying cable, dropping the kids off at the pool. Doc says water bailiff is the person who checks fishing licenses, stops poachers, and enforces laws on the water. So probably kind of like what we would call a fish and game warden. Thank you, Doc Torn. Appreciate that. I thought the water bailiff was like Rusty Burrell on the old People's Court. Rumpled Trenchcoat says, well, that makes a little more sense than my definition, Doc. I think they all make sense, personally. Not known for my judgment. Doc says, you cannot have a monster like Nessie without any proof in the pudding, the blood pudding. Julian Caesar says, I thought it was some crazy guy who tried to empty the loch with a pail. He tries to bail Loch Ness there. Let's see, people saying hi. Gene says, is the loch fresh water or seawater? I believe the loch is freshwater. I'm pretty sure it's freshwater. Because there's a river Ness, and that wouldn't be seawater, so I'm assuming that's what it is. I think a loch means lake. Kind of. But I'm not sure. Doc says, well, I did ask Google, Rumpert. Smoke detector says fresh, but it connects to the ocean underground, I think. Julian Caesar says, I've heard salmon come in from the sea, so it must connect. I don't know. Doc says blood pudding. Now I'm hungry. I don't, even the name blood pudding just. Okay, so George Spicer, 1933. Modern interest in the monster was sparked by a sighting on the 22nd of July in 1933. I'm just going to go ahead and put a thing up there. When George Spicer and his wife saw a most extraordinary form of animal cross the road in front of their car. So in their version, it wasn't in the water at all to begin with. They described the creature as having a large body, about 4 feet high, 25 feet long, and a long, wavy, narrow neck, slightly thicker than an elephant's trunk, and as long as the 10 to 12 foot width of the road. They saw no limbs. It lurched across the road toward the loch 20 yards away, leaving an unbroken trail of undergrowth in its wake. So it didn't even break the undergrowth. Spicer described it as the nearest approach to a dragon or prehistoric animal I've ever seen in my life, as having a long neck which moved up and down in the manner of a scenic railway. And they said it had an animal in its mouth. It had a body that was fairly big with a high back, but if there were any feet, they must have been the web kind. As for tail, I canna say, as it moved so rapidly, and when we got to the spot, it had probably disappeared into the loch. Though he was the first to describe the creature as a plesiosaur, like dinosaur, evidence suggested by researchers at Columbia University in 2013 proved his story to be fake. The university and Daniel Loxton suggested that Spicer's sighting was fictionalized and inspired by a long-necked dinosaur that rises out of a lake in King Kong, a film that was extremely popular in theaters during that time. Loxton and Daniel Prothero later cited King Kong as evidently an influence on the Loch Ness Monster myth. Just a few weeks later, in August of 1933, the Courier published a report of Spicer's sighting. This sighting triggered a massive amount of public interest and an uptick in alleged sightings, leading to the solidification of the actual name Loch Ness Monster. It's been claimed the sightings of the monster increased after a road was built along the loch in early 1933, bringing workers and tourists to the formerly isolated area. Anyway. Another sighting in 1933 was a photograph by Hugh Gray, and I think this is one that you will all recognize. This photograph by Hugh Gray, the first photograph alleged to depict the monster. No, wait, maybe this might not be the Hugh Gray photograph. In fact, it's not. But I'll get to this photograph in a second. This was the first photograph of the monster. It was taken in November of 1933 after the big article. It was slightly blurred, and if you look closely, the head of a dog can be seen. Gray had taken his Labrador for a walk that day, and it is suspected the photograph depicts his dog fetching a stick from the water. Others have suggested the photograph depicts an otter or a swan. The original negative was lost. However, in 1963, Maurice Burton came into possession of 2 lantern slides, contact positives from the original negative, and when projected onto a screen, they revealed an otter rolling on the surface like otters do. So, a motorcyclist claimed to have hit the creature also in 1934. He made a sketch, and this is the sketch right here. This is the Arthur Grant sketch that he drew in 1934. It's been suggested, and this was a faulty observation due to poor light conditions, and they think he may have seen an otter or a seal and just exaggerated the story over time. Yeah. So this is the famous photo that they call the surgeon's photograph. It's known as the surgeon's photograph, and it's probably the most famous alleged photo of the creature, and the first to show the head and the neck. And it's attributed to Robert Kenneth Wilson, Dr. Robert Kenneth Wilson. I think they called it the surgeon's photograph because they didn't want to call it the gynecologist's photograph because he was a gynecologist, which would have been distasteful, of course, to audiences of that era. Multiple British newspapers reported his claim, and Dr. Wilson described the monster as having a small head and a swan-like neck protruding 3 feet well above the surface. The following day that this story was reported, the Daily Mail in London announced it had purchased exclusive rights to the photo, and they attributed it to Mr. Robert Kenneth Wilson's M.A., M.B., CHB, Cambridge, and blah, 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 who had been touring the Loch Ness countryside. They ran an interview with him and talked about his remarkable luck in being able to secure the photograph. He said he was looking at the loch when he saw the monster. Now, for 60 years, this photo, into the early 90s, was considered big-time evidence of the monster's existence. People would go, well, look at the photo. How can you deny that? And skeptics had dismissed it as driftwood or an elephant. Why they would say an elephant, I don't know. Those aren't really indigenous to the Scottish Highlands. But the photo's scale, however, was controversial. It's often showed like this, cropped, making the creature seem very large, and the ripples there seem like waves in the loch. But the uncropped photo shows the other end of the loch and the monster in the center. The ripples were found to fit the size and pattern of very small ripples rather than what looks like very large ones in this photograph. Analysis of the original image, created a lot more doubt. In 1993, the makers of the Discovery Communications documentary Loch Ness Discovered analyzed the uncropped image and also found a white object visible in nearly every version of the photo, implying that it may have been on the negative. It was believed to be the cause of the ripples, as if the object was being towed, although the possibility of a blemish on the negative couldn't be ruled out. Since 1994, most scientists agree that the photo was merely an elaborate hoax, which took place in sort of this fervor about the Loch Ness Monster. It had been described as a fake in sort of the mid-70s, but details of how the photo was actually published and taken were put in a 1990 book called Nessie, The Surgeon's Photograph Exposed. The creature was reportedly a toy submarine built by Christian Sperling, the son-in-law of Dr. Robert Wilson, also a screenwriter, director, and producer, and he admitted that the photograph was a hoax in January of 1991. Yes, there was a guy who had been a big Nessie Really Exists proponent, a big game hunter named M.A. Weatherall. And he had been publicly ridiculed by his employer, the Daily Mail, after he said he found Nessie footprints, and those turned out to be a hoax. So to get revenge on the Daily Mail, Weatherall, he just basically made a hoax to get even with him, with this Sperling guy and a few other people that were related to him. They bought a toy submarine from Woolworths, and his head and neck were made from wood putty. After testing it in a local pond, the group went to Loch Ness, where a local photographer took photos. And when they heard a water bailiff approaching, because you know how those water bailiffs are, Weatherall sank the model with his foot, and it presumably is still somewhere floating at the bottom of Loch Ness. The plates of the photo were given to Wilson, a friend of his who enjoyed a good practical joke. Wilson brought the plates to a chemist and then gave them to George Morrison for development. He sold the first photo to the Daily Mail, who then announced that the monster had been photographed. There's another photo they took of this hoax creation of theirs, which is often ignored by researchers who believe its quality is too poor and the differences from the first photo are too great to allow for analysis. It shows a head similar to the first photo with a more turbulent wave pattern and possibly taken from a different time and location. Some believe it to be an earlier, cruder attempt at the hoax, and some think it's not even that thing they made. It's a bird or something. They didn't really pay much attention to the second photo, and this one subsequently became super famous. Now, there is a couple other, during the 30s, examples of this hoax. In May of 1938, a tourist from South Africa filmed something in the loch for 3 minutes on 16 millimeter color film. And a single frame of that was published in a 1961 book. But the problem there was the book concluded that it was just a floating object and not an animal. And that was very, very significant because they had 3 solid minutes of it. And it didn't move, didn't do anything, etc. Also in 1938, the constable, not just the constable, the chief constable of Inverness Shire wrote a letter that the monster existed without a doubt. No question. And he expressed concern about a hunting party that had arrived with a custom-made harpoon gun. Come on. How many people do you know, they have a few beers, and pretty soon you're making a harpoon gun? And they were determined to catch the monster dead or alive. He believed his power to protect the monster from hunters was very doubtful. There were sonar readings. The first sonar readings were done in 1954 by a fishing boat called the Rival 3. And its crew noticed that they kept seeing a large object that kept pace with their vessel at a depth of about 500 feet. It was detected for about 2,600 feet before contact was lost and then regained. And previous sonar attempts were inconclusive, or negative, which is the reason that one is significant. We've got some of your comments here that I should probably get to pretty quickly. Fishman says, if we can convince Musk that Nessie is spending money frivolously, we can settle this. That's right. He'll get to the bottom of it. Spooky. Doc says, I've heard that the surgeon's photo was a toy dinosaur he put in the water, then tossed a stone near it to make the ripple effect. That's kind of what, it wasn't necessarily a toy, but it was sort of made, like with wood putty. Rumpled Trenchcoat says, it really has to be the crowning achievement of a practical joker to have a photo accepted as proof of a hoax for decades. Yeah, he's still laughing. And that's agreed to. Rumpled Trenchcoat, a Columbo podcast, has done really a selfless, absolutely philanthropic thing here. And he has donated 5 Tom Gulley Show memberships. I don't know who gets them because I don't watch this on YouTube. I have to watch it on Streamlab. So hopefully no one who hates the show received a membership. Odds of that are low since most people do hate the show. And therefore, who knows? But for that generous donation of 5 memberships, you will receive, of course, the highest honor we can bestow upon you, which is the full point. Thank you so much, Rumpled Trenchcoat. I do appreciate that very, very much. Rumpled for the win. Yes, Rumpled Trenchcoat for the win. I've got some other photos I'm going to show you here in a second. They're going to just make you laugh. Anyway, Rumpled Trenchcoat says, hold my beer, pass the harpoon gun. I didn't even recognize the names this time, but even if they hate it, they can get tortured with it. That's right. That's right. Yeah, also in the 1950s, Peter McNab took a photograph that depicted 2 long black humps in the water. It wasn't made public until it appeared in a book on the subject in 1957. In 1958, it was published by The Weekly Scotsman. Author Ronald Binns wrote that the phenomenon which McNab photographed could easily be a wave effect resulting from 3 trawlers traveling close together up the loch. Other researchers consider the photograph a hoax. There was a guy that requested permission to use the photograph in his 1976 book. He got the original negative from McNab, but discovered that it differed from the photograph that appeared in the original book. The tree at the bottom left in whites was missing from the negative. It's suspected that the photograph was doctored by re-photographing a print. Now, let's see. Yeah, let him hate the show and call in to be ridiculed by Tom. Well, that actually it's fun for all of us, isn't it? Aeronautical engineer Tom Dinsdale in 1960 filmed what is believed to be a dark hump that left a wake crossing Loch Ness in April of 1960. Dinsdale, who reportedly had the sighting on the final day of his search, he went there to search for the creature, described it as mahogany red with a blotch on its side when viewed through binoculars. He said when he mounted his camera, the object began to move, and he shot 40 feet of film, which is not very much. According to the Joint Air Reconnaissance Intelligence Center, who published a 1966 report analyzing the film, the object was probably animate. It was, in other words, probably moving. After the film, Dinsdale continued his pursuit in trying to find the Loch Ness Monster, but while he claimed to have additional sightings, he didn't have any more photographic evidence. In 1993, during that Discovery Channel Loch Ness Monster documentary, a digital enhancement was done of the Dinsdale film. The person who enhanced the film noticed a shadow in the negative that was not obvious in the developed film. By enhancing and overlaying frames, he found what appeared to be the rear body of an underwater creature. And that made people go crazy. Additional analysis, though, indicates his sighting was a case of mistaken identity, and he probably filmed a boat under poor lighting conditions. So Dinsdale got mad at this, and he hired a fishing boat to go out and try to replicate it. And of course, that was a joke. That was a joke. Let's see here. My humps, my Loch Ness Monster bumps. Fergie. Man, is she hot. Gumpy jump humps. Yes, smoke detector. Gumpy jump humps. On May the 21st of 1977, Rumpled Trenchcoat, it doesn't help that the lake is near where some of the best whiskey is made. That's very true as well. On May 21st, 1977, Anthony Doc Shields, camping next to Urquhart Castle, which I should mention, a lot of these sightings are near, took what were alleged to be the cleanest picture of the monster then available. Now, this guy was a magician, which right away you're going to doubt anything he says or does. He described an elephant squid, claiming the long neck shown in the photograph is the squid's trunk, and that a white spot at the base of the neck is its eye. Due to lack of ripples, it's been declared a hoax by many people, and it's called the Loch Ness Muppet. And it's called that because of its very fake look. In 2007, 55-year-old laboratory technician Gordon Holmes videotaped what he said was this jet black thing about 46 feet long, moving fairly fast in the water. Loch Ness Monster watchers described it as among the best footage ever seen. BBC Scotland broadcast the video on the 29th of May in 2007. STV News North Tonight aired it on the 28th of May and interviewed Holmes. Adrian Shire, a marine biologist at the Loch Ness 2000 Centre in Drummonshire, suggested that the footage was an otter, seal, or water bird. Sonar image in 2011, Loch Ness boat captain Marcus Atkinson photographed with sonar of an image about 4.9 feet wide, identified object that seemed to follow his boat for 2 minutes at a depth of about 75 feet and ruled out the possibility of a small fish or seal. About a year later, scientists from the National Oceanography Center said that the image is a bloom of algae and zooplankton. Also in 2011, George Edwards, the skipper of a boat on the loch, claimed that a photo he took on the 2nd of November shows Nessie. Edwards claims to have searched for the monster for 26 years and reportedly spent 60 hours a week on the loch aboard this boat, Nessie Hunter 4. So there were 3 other boats named the Nessie Hunter before his, taking tourists for rides. So what possible incentive could he have for faking it? Other researchers, however, questioned the photograph's authenticity, and a lot of people think that it's a fiberglass hump used in a National Geographic Channel documentary in which this guy had actually participated in. So there's that. There was another video in 2003, a 5-minute video of a mysterious wave in the loch. Just a wave. That's all. Now, in 2014, it was reported that a satellite image on Apple Maps showed what appeared to be the Loch Ness Monster, just below the surface of the loch. But it was basically just ripples in the water. And also, in 2021, it was reported that a 20-foot creature was captured on live stream near the loch, but that's, nobody can reproduce it or find it. There have been a number of very extensive searches. Edward Mountain, a guy named Edward Mountain, was the founder of Eagle Star Insurance, which is a giant insurance company. So he's a rich guy. And he got 20 men with binoculars and cameras, and they positioned themselves around the loch from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. for 5 weeks. And nothing. The Loch Ness Phenomena Investigation Bureau, LNPIB, for those of you keeping track at home, that existed for 10 years. And their whole purpose was to study Loch Ness to identify the creature known as the Loch Ness Monster. It received a $20,000 grant from the World Book Encyclopedia to fund a 2-year series of daylight watches from May to October of that year. They basically had a 35 millimeter camera. They had a caravan camp, which is basically a camp that anyone can be a part of, and it just goes from place to place for about 7 years, from 1965 to 1972, and they didn't find anything. They didn't find anything. However, according to their annual report in 1969, they had over 1,000 members. So there was a sonar study done in 1967, 1968. D. Gordon Tucker chair of the Department of Electronic and Electrical Engineering at the University of Birmingham, volunteered his services as a sonar developer and an expert at Loch Ness. And he chose Loch Ness to test this sonar stuff. Had a certain kind of range that sonar had never had. And during a 2-week trial, multiple targets were identified. One was found to be a shoal of fish. So, yay. There's a guy named Robert Rines that studied it a lot, and he did research in 72, 75, 2001, 2008. I could go into it in bloody gory detail, but they didn't find anything. Basically, a lot of these investigations, and even some of the films and photographs, will always say, there's something, they found it on our sonar, or it was below the surface of the water. It was a large object that we couldn't see, but it was following us at a speed that, no human creature or anything else could possibly have traveled at. And then it turns out to be a log or a fish or whatever. Operation Deep Scan was conducted in 1987, and nothing. Search for the Loch Ness Monster in 2003 by the BBC, which used 600 sonar beams and satellite tracking. No animal of substantial size was found. Yeah. And all the scientists on that documentary that believed prior to that it existed had to admit it was a hoax. There was another investigation in 2016, another yet of DNA. DNA. And they couldn't rule out that the DNA they had was just an eel. The 90th anniversary high-tech search was done in 2023, and it was a weekend. A lot of volunteers, sonar mapping, and that's another thing they always say is, well, the loch is so deep in some places it can't be measured, and so it's probably hiding, and yeah, okay, whatever. Let me show you a couple pictures here that are going to make you scream. This is actually at the Loch Ness Museum. This is a display that they go, this is what it is, which is obviously just a plesiosaur. It's a dinosaur we've all known has existed. There's a lot of people that wonder how a plesiosaur got into the loch, and they're like, well, it got in there when the Ice Age happened, and then the waters receded, and it was trapped in the loch. And when you say, well, it couldn't have possibly survived that long, oh, well, obviously there were offspring, and that's what's the remaining, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, there was a pretty huge study that was done, not necessarily about the Loch Ness Monster, but about why people keep seeing the Loch Ness Monster. And it has to do with psychology, and if you think there's a monster in the loch, your eye will see what your brain wants to see, what you crave, what you seek. Many known animals have been misidentified as the Loch Ness Monster. Eels, elephants, Greenland shark, Wells catfish, and many inanimate objects have been misidentified as the Loch Ness Monster. Boat wakes, trees, wakes, optical illusions, seismic gas. There's a tremendous amount of folklore and a tremendous amount of hoaxes. There's an Italian journalist who hoaxed in 1933. I already mentioned Marmaduke Wetherell getting even with the Daily Mail. 1972, a team of zoologists from Yorkshire's Flamingo Park Zoo. They found something floating in the water, and it basically was a taxidermed bear's head on a big sort of chicken wire and patient. Basically, people found out these zoologists were there and put a big fake thing in the water for them to go crazy over. Gerald McSorley in 2003 supposedly discovered a fossil when he tripped and fell into the loch. After examination, it was very clear that the fossil had been planted. In 2004, a 5 TV documentary team using special effects experts tried to convince people there was something in the loch. They constructed an animatronic model of a plesiosaur, calling it Lucy, and about 600 sightings were reported when they put this fake thing in the water. 2005, 2 students claimed to have found a large tooth embedded in the body of a deer on the shore, and they publicized it. They set up a website, but expert analysis soon revealed that the tooth was the antler of a muntjac, which is kind of like a deer. The tooth was a publicity stunt to produce a horror novel by Stephen Allen called The Loch. We've talked about this other creature, the plesiosaur, which is what most people think Nessie is supposed to look like. This also is at the Museum of Nessie. And look at that. Isn't that something that's believable? Anyway, they've had countless scientists explain why it's not a plesiosaur. The plesiosaur could not possibly have swam in the water with its neck up out of the water due to the bone structure of a plesiosaur and its ability to hold its head up outside water. The loch is only 10,000 years old, which dates to the end of the last ice age. Before then, it was frozen for 20,000 years. So there's no way, plesiosaurs did not exist 10,000 years ago. If creatures similar to plesiosaurs had lived in the Loch Ness, they would have been seen frequently, since they would have had to surface several times a day to breathe. It was not a fish. And due to the lack of plankton, there wouldn't be enough food to sustain a family of plesiosaurs. Yeah. Others just claim that it's a giant long-necked amphibian. Other people say it's an invertebrate, but it's not a very convincing argument for Nessie to have existed. Let's get to some more of your comments here real quickly. My late father-in-law can confirm that. The drinking part, yes, I'll bet. The Scotch whiskey. Some people call it Scotch. Doc says Scooby-Doo did a nice movie about this in the early 2000s. The Mystery Machine also in the early 2000s attempted to prove the existence of the Loch Ness. I'm sure Scooby-Doo found it and it was cuddly and friendly and they just let it go. Velma. Daphne or Velma? Discuss in the chat amongst yourselves. Rebel Trenchcoat says, Doc, did they pull its mask off to show it was really an old man Jenkins who owned the abandoned amusement park? And I would have got away with it too if it wasn't for you fool meddling kids. 26 years. He's like Captain McAhab. Captain Nessahab. Smoked at Center says, didn't Crowley own a house at Loch Ness and Jimmy Page bought it, or vice versa? I have no idea. I'll do a show on Aleister Crowley someday and we'll figure it out. No, this time it was a reporter with a Nessie contraption. Well, that's less fun. Well, yes and no. Doc says, I know, but I think old man Jenkins had retired by then. Maybe he was still in jail from all the other cases, says Rumple Trenchcoat. Doc says, well, they did mention it could be him, but Velma said his wasn't in Scotland. Velma or Daphne? It's really... Smoke detector. Eels is what I heard too, yes. Caddy Daddy is here, says hi to the chat. How do you, Caddy Daddy? DNA, I prefer TNA. Know what I'm saying? Don't we all? People saying hi, people saying hi, people saying hi. So Nessie is a redneck? I think it's a mahogany red neck. People saying hi. Smoke detector says Crowley summoned something there and forgot to close the ritual. It's probably just that. Yes, he was reading from the Necronomicon or an H.P. Lovecraft story, and that's what got left over. Sorry I'm late, Tom. Hey, Caddy Daddy, you're new here, but no one is ever late to the show. That's one of the things about the show. It's impossible to be late. I'm more impressed that there was an elephant in the lake, says Rumple Trenchcoat. Yeah, it's like that's the worst of all possible. Right, an elephant in the loch, right. You've never met a Scottish zookeeper. I haven't. Hyper realistic, yes. That looks like a rejected animatronic at Euro Disney. And that one's not even animatronic, I don't think. I think it's just stationary. We didn't find the monster, though we tried to find it, but it's good at hiding. Yes, it's the world champion at hide and seek. That's a stone cold loch, frozen for 20,000 years. Velma, but the Mindy Kaling version. What about the, what's that Italian chick's name that played Velma? Man, and she's smoking hot. Who played Velma? Linda Cardellini. Linda Cardellini. Man, is she good looking. She's also Hawkeye's wife in the Marvel universe. See, this guy gets it. This guy gets it. I'd make Velma scream jinkies. Oh, yeah. You'd have her screaming jinkies. Velma's, you know, she's... There's a lot of adult film adaptations of the Scooby-Doo thing. That's all I'm going to say about it. Really. And that's really all I have to tell you about the Loch Ness Monster, which I think is a bunch of hooey. I do know that Dr. Smith, Tom Gulley, would have been able to prove this if it existed. I know that the Sherlock Holmes, Tom Gulley, right there in England and everything, right there at the Baskervilles, you know, could have found it maybe. But I definitely, Columbo could have found it. Columbo definitely could have found it. By the way, like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. Please, everybody watching, please do that. I beg of you. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And it helps us with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful algorithm. We do have super chats. We do have memberships. Several of you have already been very generous and done that this evening. Helps us pay the bills around here. Plus the fact, you know, you can get a free membership. Rumple Trenchcoat just gave some out. So turn on those gifted membership. Please. For the love of Mike, we can confirm Rule 34, Velma is better. Yes. Help the algae rhythm. The algae rhythm, yes. If there was algae and plankton, maybe there could be. But there's not. Let's see here. Call in. Tom, love you a long time if you call. Yeah, I'll have the phone lines are opening, but they're not quite open. But they are opening. Mm-hmm. Velma has more curves than Daphne. But Daphne would be the sort of cheerleader-looking, model-looking, hotter. But Velma, you know, just saying. Maybe she tries harder. Maybe, I don't know. But jinkies. But you can find a lot of Velmas online. Wink, wink, if you know what I mean. But please like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. Help us out with the likes, please. It's just a click. Subscribe would be even better. We'd love you even more if you subscribed. If Velma lost her glasses, I might stand a shot at her. I don't know. Velma seems like a very sapio, you know, like smart people kind of gal. Hard to say. Hard to say. In some of the short films I've seen, Daphne and Velma are an item, if you know what I mean. Which I don't particularly care for those as much. But who doesn't like a girl in an orange sweater? Please, come on. So, Rule 34, enough said. Well, yes, Rule 34, for those of you who don't know, is an internet sort of trope. And it claims that for everything that exists on the internet, every topic on or off the internet, some form of adult stuff exists. Everything on the internet. Velma with the glasses. Okay. All right. I mean, if you're going to go that route, Scoob is probably involved too. Well, that's Rule 34. Phone lines are open at 972-994-6822. If you'd like to call in, we won't keep them open very long this evening because we are getting close to the top of the hour. But hey, Tom is on the internet. I'm pretty sure that I am an exception to Rule 34. And if I'm not an exception, I would demand that I be part of that, depending on who's... Can you post the number? The number is in the chat, the scroll at the bottom of the screen. It will appear in mere seconds. Daphne's scarf. Oofa. Yeah, a lot of people like that scarf. Freddie also has a scarf, if you're interested in that. I'll just go ahead and put the number up by itself. How about that for you, Caddy Daddy? That'll make it easier for you. That'll make it easier for you. So yeah, there's the number. There's the number. But yeah, Rule 34 is a thing. Smoke detector says, I have a picture of you taped to my ceiling. Does that count? Technically, no, but that doesn't mean I'm not flattered. Take any attention I can possibly get. But yes, Rule 34 is a thing. Before the internet, it was a thing. That no matter what's out there, people will find a way to... Because people are hardwired to be excited, shall we say, by all sorts of things. But yes, there's the phone line open thing at the bottom of the screen. I haven't decided what tomorrow's show is going to be about yet. I got a really great suggestion from my sister today to do one on Recessa Annie. You know that thing you used to practice CPR on? Recessa Annie? I could do one on that, or I could do... What did I have here? There's one about a guy that went crazy with a bulldozer that he built. I might do that. And I'm definitely going to do one very soon. I think tomorrow might be it. On something called the Milgram experiment. I'm not going to spoiler it right now, but it will blow your mind. It will blow your mind. No, Recessa Annie is a great topic. Recessa 34. I bet you there's something out there on Recessa Annie. Recessa Annie is one. Maybe we'll do that a little later in the week. I could do because I want to do something on Wednesday that's kind of pop culture, entertainment-y. I think tomorrow I am going to do the Milgram experiment. And that experiment, first of all, you're not going to believe that they did it. Second of all, you're not going to believe how they did it. And third of all, you're not going to believe the results of this experiment. It's somewhat disturbing as it concerns human psychology. Yeah. You want me to do the Killdozer? I am going to do the Killdozer. It's a doozy for sure. 972-994-6822. Numbers in the scroll. I'm going to keep it open for another 3 minutes. And then we're going to shut this baby down. And it will be a Monday in the books. In the books. I try not to be a downer about certain conspiracy theories and things, but pretty well known, I don't believe in conspiracy theories for the most part. And I don't believe there's a Loch Ness Monster. There never was. I also don't believe in Bigfoot. we would have long ago found a dead body or seen something on satellite photography or who knows what all else. All right. Doc Torn, how's it going? And thank you so much for being so generous yet again.
Tom, you're too kind. You know that.
Well, I don't want to say yes because of Rule 34. I mean, I'm kind, but I'm not that kind.
Oh yeah, that's getting into some dark waters right now.
Yeah. There's Rule 34 with Nessie. I don't know if you can find Nessie on one of the various hubs.
Yes.
But yeah, so I don't believe in it. I'm not mad at people who do believe in it, but I don't believe in it. So, how was your weekend?
It was great. Oh man, it was. I mean, it would have been better with baby girl, but it is what it is.
Yeah. You were going to get hammered. Did you get hammered?
I did.
Good. Did you get hammered?
And Sunday morning, I regretted it.
Did you get hammered on mead?
That too. I had I forgot. I found a daiquiri I had forgotten about when baby girl was here, so I enthusiastically enjoyed that.
Well, that's cool. That's very cool.
Top that off with a horn of mead.
Hey, how did you find out about this show?
I was actually scrolling through YouTube, and there it was. So I was like, hey, well, let's see what this is.
Yeah. You've regretted it ever since.
I know, right? It's crazy.
It is. It is. Now, do you believe in the Loch Ness Monster?
No. There's too much. What's the word I'm looking for here? Sorry.
It's okay. So, yeah, do you believe in Bigfoot?
No. We haven't found anything suggesting. We found more evidence of people faking Bigfoot than any actual evidence of a creature.
Yeah. There's some videos out there where a guy claims to have found he has a Bigfoot body or something, and they make the mistake of showing it up close, and you're just looking at it going, that's carpeting. And that's glue. It's not even close to being, a good effort at faking it. And yeah, it's terrible. The wolf is here, says hello, folks. Somebody
Wolf.
in the very opening of the show, and a lot of people around here are right exactly where it opens. Gilman had asked me how the wolf and I know each other because he said I'm kind of new, and the wolf and I met 44 years ago this year in Palmer Hall at Ball State University. Smoke Detector says the Patterson-Gimlin video is anatomically correct. Well, the Patterson-Gimlin video has sort of been already proven to be a hoax. And some people think that it's a female. Others think it's a male, and et cetera, et cetera. But, yeah. There's also some issues with the height of that particular Bigfoot in that particular film, because people have found the place where that actually happened so they can measure it against a log on the ground and other things. But anyway, yeah, Smoke Detector says she's got tatas for sure. So Rule 34.
Oh, there's quite a few things about that are covered under Rule 34. There's things that there's things that you'll be like, wow, that was interesting, and things that'll have you like, why did I see that?
Yeah. Well,
And then
there's no need for that.
yeah, but then there's things that'll have you like, oh dear Odin, why did I see that?
Yes, I can't unsee it. I'm going to wash my eyes with turpentine and steel wool. Caddy Daddy says, "Can someone put the number in the chat?" Well, Caddy Daddy, again, it's scrolling on the bottom of the screen. I just put it in the chat for you and only you, however. So there you go. But you guys, what's the thing you have down there that we were talking about the other day? It's not the skunk ape. It's something else.
The Rougarou.
Oh, the Rougarou. Yeah, the Rougarou. The Rougarou. And it's just Bigfoot, only it's Cajun.
No, that's a Bayou werewolf right now.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just so it's a werewolf that's really good at making gumbo.
Nah. His gumbo trash. You got to try when you have a seafood boil. That's when you go.
Seafood boil. Yeah, I recently went to a seafood boil. It was actually pretty good. It was here in Dallas, but it generally, you know how we used to get our crawfish when I was a kid in Indiana? We used to call them crawdaddies, just, you know, the little crawdads. We had this big piece of mesh that you would roll up. It was probably about 5 feet high. And we would roll it up, and then when we wanted to use it, we would stretch it out, and then it stretched out across this creek / river that was on my grandparents' property. And so we would stretch that thing out, and it had a rock bottom, a flat rock bottom. This particular it's called Williams River. I would call it more of a creek in most places. There were places where it was wide and deep, and then a bunch of us would get like 40 yards away, and that was probably 30 feet wide, 40 feet wide. So you'd get 7 or 8 kids and men, and you'd get in a line, and you would just run down the creek toward this big piece of mesh. And it would scare all these crawdads into the mesh, and then you had people that would, you know, be standing there that when we got done running toward it, they would lift up the bottom and guys would hold the top. And so then you would have this big piece of mesh just loaded with crawdads.
Wow.
Yep, that's Indiana crawfishing. Wolf says, "Look, I don't."
We used to take
Go ahead.
I was gonna say we used to take a little thing of chicken wire, you know, some like little 3 foot something like that tall, or some little 3 foot piece like that.
Yeah.
3 foot wide. I mean.
Yeah.
Roll that up into like a little funnel, and especially after it rained, that was like the best time. We would go to like the creeks, the little rivers like that, and where it was thin, we'd go and we'd put it right there, wait for about an hour or so, and then go and see what we caught.
Gotcha. Yeah, ours wasn't. It was tighter than chicken wire. It wasn't as, you know, open as chicken wire, but it was kind of like that. It was kind of like the same thing. Then we'd take it on up the hill, and Grandma and all the ladies would boil it on up and get out the butter and all the stuff, and we'd sit there and eat all those mud bugs.
Oh, this is me. Oh man, I'm wanting some crawfish on me. And there's a shop.
Go ahead, man.
There is a shop around the corner. I know I can get shrimp. Well, they have that too, but I know I can get crawfish and a nice crawfish po' boy. Ooh, I might have to stop by that tomorrow after work.
Well, I can't eat mud bugs anymore. They're just too much work. It's too much work. There was a place near where I used to live, and it's just too much work. The wolf says, "Look, I don't care what you say. I stood where they fell." Yeah, the wolf went to Tombstone, Arizona, to the OK Corral, and he stood where they fell. And they usually have a little show and reenact it, but they didn't have the show the day he was there, so they had really bad paper mache replicas of Wyatt Earp and the Clantons and Doc Holliday and everybody. But that's almost as bad as Nessie. I think the word you're looking for is net, says Smoke Detector. Well, it wasn't really net because it was mesh. It was steel. It was a steel mesh. Kenny Daddy says, got it. Wholesome. Wolf saying hi to people. People saying hi. People saying hi. So, anyway, well, yeah. So that's how we used to do. Hillbilly Indiana crawfish, and that's how we did it.
Hey, there's an old saying: if it's stupid but it works, it ain't stupid.
It worked. It worked really well, as a matter of fact. Super well. I'm not a big seafood person anyway. Now, if I do have seafood, I like a blackened salmon. I like anything that's blackened. Cornflakes, ice cream, whatever. If it's blackened, count me in. And I use
chicken?
Especially chicken. Do you probably know of a spice from a company called Zatarain's? Or Zatarain's Cajun spice? Zatarain. Okay.
Yes. You know the plant they make that at is actually. Oh, I just realized what I said. The plant they make that at is actually down the road from where I work.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah. When the wind blows just right. Oh.
Yeah, my Cajun friend suggested to me that stuff. He goes, "Oh, you got to get this. This is what everybody uses." So, the wolf is in season 3 of Kabumble. Smoke Detector says, between this blackened tangent and Tom's prowess with mesh, I think it's safe to infer he's from a long line of slave owners. Hell yeah, brother. I am not from a long line of slave brothers. Matter of fact, the exact opposite. I'm from a long line of Underground Railroad and civil rights type people. There's even a book about my grandfather regarding that subject. So, good guess, but not quite accurate. Not quite accurate. Yeah. So,
I think that was a joke.
I think it was a joke. I'm hoping it was a joke. I'm hopeful. I'm always hopeful. So, hey, do you got anything you'd like me to do a show about?
Well, you mentioned the Killdozer.
It's done. I'll do the Killdozer this week. I'll do that on. Well, tomorrow I'm doing the Milgram's Man. I could do that on. Which is better for you, Wednesday or Thursday, for me to do Killdozer?
Why did I know you was going to ask that? I've been watching this show that much. I knew you were going to ask that. Wednesday. That would be a great Wednesday show.
Okay, so I'm gonna do Milgram Experiment tomorrow, Killdozer on Wednesday. Thursday I'll do some sort of TV show or actor of some kind, and then we'll push Recessa Annie back into next week because I have to do Overrated Underrated on Fridays because it's such a ratings bonanza when I do that. Sometimes as many as 30 people watch it. So, yeah. Let's see.
Well, you said something. You said some kind of TV show for Thursday, right?
Yeah.
What about the history of the television itself? That's always a fun topic.
I can do that, and I want to do that, but we covered some of that when we did the Lead to Forest. But I could do the history of television. The history of television is very, very, very interesting. The development of the actual, household appliance. But it's so vast. I don't know that I could do it in one show, but you know what might be a great topic is color TV. The development of color TV is a really amazing story. Yeah, because they opened it up to everybody to figure out a way to do it. And there was a lot of different ways that they came up with, and some of them were better than the television that we actually got in color TV. But the one that won was one that would work with all the existing black and white televisions. Basically, your old TVs had 3 different colors that they would project onto a screen called a raster, RGB, red, green, and blue. And the green channel was what they used for black and white. So that when color TV came out, everybody that had black and white TVs could still watch it, and vice versa.
I went somewhere totally different when you said green.
I'll bet you did. But anyway, that's why you got to eat all that Cajun food. Get the munchies.
Well, I mean, Cajuns, we're naturally hungry anyways.
Now I'm getting hungry. I don't even know what I'm going to make for dinner. I'm getting hungry. But anyway, well, hey, man, I'm going to see if anybody else is going to call in here, and then I'm going to stick a fork in it. But thank you for the Killdozer solution there, when we're going to do that. And that'll be on Wednesday.
Hey, I do what I can to help.
Hey, you do, and you do a lot to help, and I appreciate it.
Does this mean I'm staff? Like me and Wolf, are we staff now?
I could create some unpaid staff positions for you guys if you want me to. Think of a title that you'd like, and that'll be your title. If I ever make
Chief commenter.
Yes, if I ever do another opening or closing for the show, which I should do, probably a closing, people would go crazy if I changed the opening, which is weird because I did it just as a test and now it's the opening. But if I create another closing, that would be where the credits would belong, and I'll put you on that.
Yeah, there we go. That'll be me. I'll list like Tom Gulley as host, Tom Gulley producer, Tom Gulley management or director, Doc Torn chief commenter
emeritus. You could be like a movie. You could be the best boy. Gaffer. You could be the gaffer. You ever see that at the end of a show? It'll say gaffer.
Yep.
You know what that is?
Although, nope.
The gaffer is the person that tapes down all of the various wires and cables. That's what the gaffer is.
Dude, that sounds perfect for me.
That's a job, yeah.
I've been taping things down. I've moved. I've got things shipped across the state that all I did was tape it down.
Yeah. Well, we'll figure something out. Let's put some thought into it, and we'll get you whatever title you want. I could even type it at the end of the show. Just put it up in a.
Okay, but I would say if you see a large column of smoke from the Louisiana side of Texas. That's me.
Okay. All right. I'll tell my friends. I know that guy. Anyway. All right, man.
Yeah, we don't want.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, yeah, we don't want to cause a Texas size panic.
Yeah. But if it's blowing this way, we'll smell the cooking. So, anyway, all right, man. Thank you again for everything, and we'll talk at you again soon, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, thank you, Tom. This has been fun as always.
All right, man. Take it easy.
You too. Later.
That's the commenter extraordinaire emeritus something. We gotta come up with a really over the top outlandish name for that. The Wolf says that would be Brad's favorite show. Killdozer? Probably. Can break out the accent again for the history of TV. Which accent would that be? I have a lot of accents that would be good for that, but I could be Philo T.
What, this accent radio?
I could be no, not that one. I forgot to hang up the phone line. Anyway, talk to you later. He was still in the green room. Have you done a show on Tesla? I have not done a show on Tesla thus far. I have not done a show on Tesla. I could do a show on Philo T. Farnsworth. The Wolf says do a show on Haas from Bonanza. Dan Blocker. I could do a Bonanza show. That's probably a good one. Caddy Daddy says the technology for CRTs, that would be cathode ray tubes, was way more crazy than the LED stuff. Boy, you got that right. You got that right. And the line scans and all that stuff. Gilman says, what about James Best? Roscoe P. Coltrane. Well, James Best also appeared in a very, very interesting episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. The original series. And James Best was all over. Not John Daner level, but pretty close to John Daner level in old television shows as well. Smoke Texture says, have you heard of Cell Nuss Rat House? It was an underground, now, I don't know what for the last 2 weeks. I just can't speak. That used to be my best thing, and now I can't. Anyway, it was an underground Nazi lab the Germans flooded when, as they were fleeing the Allies, some American divers went in and not all of them returned. Eesh. Those titles may be cut by an email. Commenter Southern Emeritus. A Cajun expert. Be a lot of things. Caddy Daddy says lines closed. No, Caddy Daddy, the phone lines are still open. I'm keeping them open because you've asked for the number a bunch of times. So they're open for right now. Smoke Detector says Scottish for Logie Baird. All right. Gilman says, love it when the Wolf is watching Columbo love it. The Wolf is watching Columbo on season 5. Cool. Lines closed. No, they're open. They're open. Right now they are. I'm going to close them in not too long, unless you call in. Twilight Zone, James Best and Andy Griffith. Yeah. I'm already the Reginald Cajun. That's true. You could get 2 titles. I'll give out as many as you want. I don't care. I'm crazy like that. Smoke Detector says, hells yeah. So tomorrow, the Milgram experiment. And then on Wednesday, the Killdozer. Or a guy that just had enough. He just had enough. You know. I'm going to give it. Oh, by the way, spring is upon us here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and it's my great sadness to report that today, about 15 minutes before the show started, you know how some people will tell you they saw their first robin of spring or some first thing of the springtime? The ice cream truck drove by. Yeah. I had hoped maybe that person had just gone away, but no, it's ice cream truck season. So he's a mad Gully. Says it keeps kicking me. Well, I don't know how to help you, Caddy Daddy. I wish that I did. I don't know whether you need to star 69. I don't know what's up with your phone. But as you know, the Doctorn just called in. So I know it's functioning. I know it's functioning. And I'd love to speak with you. It warmed up to 40 degrees by me up there in I think you're up on the East Coast somewhere. Yeah, it was 70 today here in Dallas. So what is it right now? 68 as we speak. 68. Let's see. Okay. So I'm going to keep the phone lines open for another 2 or 3 minutes, and then we're going to shut it down. Doc says, I saw my first robin of spring. It was the guy's house down the road from me. I don't even look for them anymore. The birds never really leave here. It's usually pretty warm. But I heard that stupid, and I was in a position where I could have gone out and said something to him. And I wanted to, but it's just been one of those days. And I thought that's the last thing I need is a beef with the ice cream guy. So we're just going to have to endure it. But it's so invasively loud and stupid. And my biggest complaint, well, maybe not my biggest complaint about the guy, but it would go a long way if he would just get a couple new songs and rotate them. That would help. That would decrease my angst by 50%. At least 50%. So, oh boy. I tell you what, Nessie. You see, when I see Nessie, I say, that's a hoax. And when Doctorn sees Nessie, he goes, that looks like some good eating right there. We got to get that in a pan. Make some jambalaya out of that Nessie. But how many years have you seen this photo? And, you know, it just keeps going along. We're going to do Bigfoot next week, by the way, along with color TV. But and we will do Bigfoot. We're going to do Bigfoot, color TV, and Recessa Annie next week. It would help if he sat on the large end of a bat and rotated. It really would. It's just... Smoke detector's laughing. All right, Caddy Daddy. Caddy Daddy, we love having you here. You're a wonderful addition to the chat and the show, but I can't wait any longer with the phone lines open. I got to end the show. I've got to end the show. We'll figure it out at a later time. Anyways, I'm looking at that old clock on the wall, and it says, like the Reverend Al Green, I got to get on up out of here. But you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And I guess the only thing left to say, got to fix that. The only thing left to say, oh, wait a minute, let's see here. Can we get a good Tom and Wolf College story from the Wolf tomorrow? Please and thank you. Doc says Tom's hankering for that seafood boil. I really am. Well, here's what I was going to do, Gilman, and I hadn't talked to the Wolf about it yet. What I'd like to do is a members-only show this weekend, and it would just be called Ask the Wolf. I guess I could just do tell you what, we won't make it members only. I feel like I need to do something especially for the members at all times, but we could make it an open show this weekend, and that would kind of give non-members an idea of what the exclusive weekend content is about. But we do a weekend show, and it would just be called Ask the Wolf. And you just call in and ask him a question. Or put it in the chat. And he gives you life advice, advice on romance, diet, nutrition, working out, automobile safety and whatever you want. Grooming tips. The Wolf, we have a lot of grooming tips. So I think we're going to do that this weekend if I can get a hold of him and he agrees to do it. So Doc says that would be awesome. That would be awesome. So with all that being said, I guess there's only one thing left to say other than the Loch Ness Monster is a hoax and doesn't exist, is unless, of course, you get a lot of joy and enjoyment out of it and enjoy discussing it and all those things, please keep doing that. It's fun. Go ahead and do it. But just know it's the pro wrestling of phenomenon. Till next time, we'll see you next time.